Good morning, morning warriors. It's morning for me. I'm Regina. Glad to see everyone's going to come in and join today. Hopefully, we're going to have a little fun. Hopefully, it's a good day for everybody else so far, wherever you may be in the world. But it's Monday morning, 10 a.m. Central Time. So let's see who's in the group so far. And we have several people waiting. I see Randolph from Fort Wayne. I'm going to take his Indiana. So that's good. I live in Tennessee. I know there's other people waiting to hopefully get started and learn a little bit about Seller Central, reports, insurance, just basic information. I know when I first started selling on Amazon, I always heard about reports, and I wasn't quite sure which ones I needed, which ones I should pull, how often, even how to get to them. So I've seen some of the comments on the Facebook group, so I thought, well, maybe it's a good topic to actually talk about and just show some basic reports to get you started, and then some areas where you can find other reports. Best thing you can do when you're looking at some of these reports is to just go in there and click and play with them and see what's available, see what fits what you need, because it'll be different for everybody as to what is they need. But there's usually some basic reports that we're going to touch on first, and then get a little bit more onto maybe ways that you can keep track of your expenses and revenue, and then maybe just touch a little bit on insurance, because they sort of all relate. It's all related to our business. So I just put around the title, Sailing Around Seller Central, since it's sort of what we're going to be doing, and try to hopefully it's a good sailing day. So, but it's good so far. So what we go ahead, we can get started, and other people will join us as we go along. I know sometimes this is early in the morning for a lot of people, so they end up watching the sessions later on. So I hope we give you some useful information. If you find that you need more information or more data on what it is that we are discussing today, feel free to ask questions in the Facebook group. That's what they're there for. I'm sitting in front of a window and the sun has just come out really bright. It was raining before, so I can't close it right now. So sorry if I look like I'm squinting a little bit, but it is pretty bright. But at least you can see me, right? So go ahead, let's begin. I do have some slides I want to share with you to try and show you pictures of where to go to. So let me go ahead and start that. Let me share my screen. Just a second. All right, hopefully you can see the screen now. So put a little sailboat there, maybe just as a picture for all of us when we get to make our millions of dollars, that we can actually have a sailboat like that and go sailboating anywhere we want to in the world. So we'll keep that as a dream, right? So look at this. So just a few things we're going to talk about. So the agenda, just some basics of how to start out, Seller Central reports, looking at some ways to collect your data to keep track of your expenses and revenue, and a little bit on insurance. Okay, basics. I'm sure we've all been to this point. Some of us may have joined with a individual account, but if not, you definitely want to open up a professional Amazon account. You'll pay that $39.99 every month, and then also at this point determine what it is that you're actually wanting to see and how often. So my first one I have here is the main page that all of us are used to seeing, okay? So you'll see the Seller Central, you'll see across the top, you'll see where it says catalog, inventory, pricing, orders. We've all seen that, okay? Right here is your reports tab, if you haven't played with that yet, okay? Over here on the right, most of us see this part here where it shows what our balance is, how much we've just gotten paid, and so on and so forth, okay? So when we look at that, that's just like a quick little view for us. But when I go to reports, I actually use both of these. It just depends on what I'm looking for and how quick I want to get to specific spots where I want to go to. I will have to say for me that I go to the payment summary, because a lot of times it'll get me right to my transaction view, which is what I want to see. But under reports, you can do the same thing. You'll just maybe have to navigate a little bit extra little steps to get where you want to go. So choose either one that you want. I know you're on this page a lot because it's what's visible as soon as you sign in. And we'll go over some of the other tabs a little bit as well. But the main thing I want to talk about are some of these different reports that you want to pull up. The main report you're going to see when you pull up, there's going to be multiple tabs, what you can choose from. So there's going to be a statement view that could be similar to looking like at your bank statement. Probably no better way to explain it besides than just that. It's going to look like your bank statement. Your transaction view is going to show your items sold. Now this transaction view can actually help you a lot, because then you can sort of see every day, or actually it's a day behind and or a few hours behind in a lag time, but you can see what items you've actually sold if you're trying to reconcile, or if you think that, wow, did I sell that one? I can't remember. This may not be as a report that you may go to as often if you're doing only PL products, because you may only have a certain number and it's easier to tell by pricing as to what may have sold that day. But if you're doing a lot of arbitrage, this transaction view could actually be really important to try and help you determine what was sold. Now you can look at the same transaction view on your telephone or your Seller Central, and you can dig into there. It doesn't give you as much information though. So I think that the transaction view actually will help you better. I do use this one quite a bit. Then you have a list of all statements, and then you have date range reports. This is one that I pull up a lot of reports that I keep track of, and I actually will save them, and I use them for breaking down for taxes or just costing and all my fees. And I do a lot of different things with these reports, and we'll look at those. And if you're into PPC, whether it be on the PL side or on arbitrage, this can actually show you what your PPC charges are in just one big area. So you can actually pull that up. Okay, so this here is just your transaction view. This is the one I said it sort of looks like your bank statement in a way. So when you go to it, you can see you're under. You've gone to. I've clicked on that little box that was over here, and I clicked on transaction view. Okay, so when I pull that up, you can see here where it says all transaction types. It's a little drop down menu. So there's different items that you can pull up depending upon whatever it is that you're looking for. Then down below where it says you can statement period, you can actually click on past number of days or current date range. So right now, this one here is an automatic date range that Amazon puts together. This one here is March 9th to March 20th. Okay, if you're wanting to change it, click on the drop down menu, select one, and then click update, and it will change the numbers for you. So what shows up on a page like this is you're going to see the range here again of the dates. Okay, you're going to see over here where you can actually download it if you want to. If you don't need to download it, you're just looking for something in particular, you can use that as well. You can also see over here where there's different pages that you can go to. So this has got a number of pages if I wanted to try and find something. All right, so when you look at this here, it's going to show you the date of the transaction, whatever the transaction type was. Other could be, well, could be a lot of different reasons. Refund of if there was a refund to a customer, if there was a payment for somebody's order that was placed. Excuse me. Another refund if there's any kind of service fees. They could be breakdown for that. Could be your monthly fees. Could be any other kind of fees that you may have. And there's another order payment here. So this is just a very small example that I found that can be used along with your order ID. And if you're wanting more information on that, the order ID you can actually click on, or at least copy and paste, and you can pull up that exact order to clarify perhaps what you're looking at, why, what was that refund, what was that product. So this here is going to show more of that bank statement to give you just some basic information as far as what your transactions are. So this one here is on the transaction view. Okay, then we'll go to the next one, and this one here is the date range reports. Now I have to say this one here is probably the one that I use the most, because a lot of times I will pull the reports up a month at a time. Okay, and I like to see on the month at a time what it is that I'm the reason why I'm looking for it. Do I want it per month? Do I want it for a quarter? Do I want it for 10 days? Depends on what I'm wanting to get from this information. So as I'm looking at the date range reports, you can see right here in the first one, I requested on March 6th. I just pulled some samples up to show you this. And I wanted to see January 1st to January 31st, 2018. It could be 2018, 2017. I don't know if there's a limit how far you can go back, but you can actually try to see how far back you can go. But if you're needing some of these reports that you need to keep for, let's say, for your accountant or for your own records, your own bookkeeping, you can download the report here, okay? And when you download it, it's going to come up in a CSV file, which looks just like an Excel file, and you can pull your data from there. But if you're going to save it, make sure you save it and you change it to that you're saving it as an Excel file and not in the CSV file. I mean, you can keep it in the CSV file if you want to, but if you're trying to go in there, manipulate the numbers, or try and break it down or filter numbers, when you want to save that report, it won't save any of that you just tried to do. It'll just save the basic file. So you want to go ahead and click and save that as an Excel file. So while you're trying to manipulate it or set up new numbers, new tabs, whatever it may be, it will actually save it. All right. So here it is again. So date range, you can actually generate the report, or you can find a transaction. You can enter an order number in. So there's many different things that you can do with just a date range report. Okay. So this one here, you can see I have it to where it's set up. I set these up January, February, March, April, and they're all just down in a row. The last one that you're going to pull from is the one that's going to be up on top. So you can see I pulled these up just one day, March 6th. I just pulled a whole bunch of them up to show you an example of this here, okay? And it will actually show you, confirm again for you this side, monthly transaction report for that time frame of January 1st to January 31st, which is going to be the same thing here, all right? So that just has to be the name of the report that I wanted, which is the monthly transaction report. When you pull the report, it's sort of going to come up looking like this. That's not too exciting. It does tell you, for example, the quantity, how much the item cost was for that particular one, and you can see the item changes. This is going to be more arbitrage. So you're going to see there's some sales. Looks like one was a return or refund. If there's any kind of credits, gift wrap, any kind of sales tax that is actually collected, what are the selling fees may be, FBA fees, and then what the total amount is, what was left over. So that's what's going to come up, but it's going to come up in a much bigger file. And this is a part of it, so you can actually expand it even more and get more information. And this being the CSV file, this with what you get, then you can change this around to whatever it is you're looking for. So let's say, well, gosh, I never get gift wrap, or I don't have to worry about any of these because you checked all your different lines, and that's just going to be a big zero. So you can actually chain in Excel, hide those if you need to somehow try and look at some of the other numbers to make it easier for you to look at, to determine the information that you are actually looking for, because all of it's going to be different as to how it is that you're wanting to pull that actual report up. This is really good though if you're looking for FBA fees, so you can actually bring it down and say, wow, my FBA fees I paid in the month of January, wow, it's pretty high. I didn't think they were actually going to be that much. And that perhaps might lead you into wanting to try and understand what your fees are, and is there anything that you're noticing that might not be quite what you thought it would be, and then that may want you to go ahead and send a message to Seller Central to see what it is that fee is all about, what's included in it. There are some categories that you have different fees, and you might be a little bit more or maybe a little bit less. It all depends. You have promotional fees as well. So you want to be able to break those down and actually understand what that is. So we look at this next one here. This report here is still under reports. This is going to get you your Amazon fulfilled shipments. So the way you're going to get to this, you're going to go to reports up here. And when you go to reports, you'll see there's different tabs that'll drop down. And this one here, you can actually Amazon fulfilled shipments, your FBA shipments, okay? And then the most important part to this one here is you look over to the left. And over here on the left is where you're going to have a whole list of all type of reports that you can pull up. Some of them are not even all there, because you'll see at the very bottom where they each say show more, show more. So there's even more reports than this. But this is just what you're going to see when you first open it. So when you look at this here, let's break it down. So you want to pull up on inventory. So right here's a new one for restock inventory. If anybody has something on their front page that when you're getting low, they send you a message, Amazon sends you a message and says, hey, you need to restock this real soon because you only have enough inventory based upon what your selling rate for maybe another a week or 10 days. whatever it may be. So they're going to give you more information like that. Stranded inventory, if you have something stranded for whatever reason, it could be a return from a customer, whether it's an arbitrage or a PL product. So you want to go in there and check that. You may not always see that it's usually on the bottom right of your main page, your Seller Central, but sometimes stranded doesn't always show up. So you want to check this from time to time and see what the stranded inventory is. It could be stranded because maybe there's a problem with your listing for some reason. It could be a return saying it's damaged, whatever it may be, and it's stranded for some reason. So you want to check into that and sort of make that a part of the different reports that you're going to check on. Reserved inventory, if you have anything that's reserved for any reason as items are coming in. Subscribe and save forecasting. If you're selling items that are part of the customer has the ability to subscribe and save when they're actually ordering products, it's going to show in here. And I don't know if anybody has seen that when they're out just shopping for their own individual items for the subscribe and save. But let's say if I have cats, so I order cat food, and I can go in there and I can click on subscribe and save, and I will get a discount. I believe it's only a 5% discount, but I say, okay, I want this particular bag of cat food sent to me every month. And so what will happen is every month that product will be sent to me. And because it's continuing on like that without me having to go into Amazon and actually order it myself, so I'm going to get a little bit savings on that, and that's the 5%. So this subscribe and save forecasting is going to give you information if you're actually have a product that you're going to be the ability for the customers to subscribe and save in their accounts. Okay. Inventory reconciliation, if for some reason you think that you need to reconcile, if you have a lot of products, it's recommended that you do that from time to time to make sure that if you're sending in 2,000 units or 5,000 units, even 200, that you can actually reconcile to make sure that all 200 were received, how many that you actually have in your account right now, still waiting to be sold, and how many were actually sold. There are times when inventory does go somewhere, it sort of gets lost in the black hole. So it's good to maybe do that, especially on the bigger numbers. And if you happen to have more than one private label product, there are still arbitrage products that you can get a couple hundred of that you may still have to do reconciliation with as well, just for the same reasons. So this can actually help you with that. The small and light inventory, this is actually a new category that started. First time I noticed it, I got an email about it, was probably about maybe about 6 months ago, something like that. And it's a different category, so you have to read up on it. It didn't sound like something that would interest me or be good for me, so I didn't do it because it's not necessarily something that allows these products to be considered FBA products. They may just be considered an add-on product, which will be a little bit different on how your product is ordered. But if you're in small and light inventory, then this can actually give you reports there. Under the show more, honestly, I forget what's under show more, but there's a lot of good information. This is something you definitely want to check out. Now that was just inventory. Okay, then the next section is sales. So you guys subscribe and save performance. That goes with your report earlier, so you can actually now look at your performance. You can pull up information. How are you doing? How many did you actually do? Were they okay? Were there any returns? Just your whole performance of what your, if that's part of your business structure, is your subscribe and save. Then you got your Amazon fulfilled shipments, and we'll come to that in a second because I do have that one highlighted. The next one is all orders, and there's also show more as well. Then you get down to the payments. The inventory storage overage fees, that is something that you definitely want to follow because as we all know, fees are something that can eat up your profits very quickly if you don't keep a tab on them and keep a watch. Because if you track them or at least look at them and trend them out regularly, you're going to be able to notice like, wow, why is there so much fees for this particular month? What happened? Where did those fees come from? Did something go on that I don't know about? I've seen some posts in the Facebook from some of the members saying my fees have gone very high, or I've ordered a private label product and the box is just too big and I didn't expect it to be that much bigger. So when it was measured then to send in for storage for Amazon, now my storage fees are going to be higher because of the size of the box. So this is going to tell you more about your overage fees and break it down for you so you can understand what's really going on, because fees can eat you up pretty quickly. Monthly storage fees, this is also a new one. So if you want to see what your monthly ones are, because the other one was overage and this one's going to be your monthly ones. Okay. Give you information more just about the fees, long-term storage fee charges. Amazon's handling the long-term storage fees a little bit differently now. So you want to look to see how much it's going to cost you to keep that item there for longer than the 6 months. To see if it's worth it to keep it there 6 months. If you have enough of a margin on there that it's okay to keep it a little bit longer, it might be better to pay that little extra fee than actually have the item removed and maybe sent back. So you want to take that in consideration. And then customer concessions. If you want to look at this as far as any kind of customer returns, any kind of replacements, and so on. Like I said, there's many more reports there that you can actually pull up. I would become familiar with them, play with them, go in there and click on them, see what you can get out of it. But in this particular page, I like going to the Amazon fulfilled shipments, because this here is going to be give me for whatever my date range is that I want to. When you have this little click down box, you can do view online, which I just don't do. I like to download because I like to play with the spreadsheets. But if I just want to look at today, or I think it goes for a week or a date range, request download, and it takes a little bit for it to gather. This one here, I just did a date range of 3/16 to 3/21. And I requested March 21st, and it's downloaded. Okay. Some of these reports you can set up to where they're automatically downloaded for you. And that way then you just have to go in there and just click on them to open them. So this one here is just going to give you information on your Amazon fulfillment, fulfilled shipments, which is what I think probably most of us do anyway. Okay. Then you can enter FBA inventory aging. This is something that you definitely want to make sure you're keeping track of, because you don't, when you don't think about it, you're like, well, I just put those products in. They can't be that old just yet. It's easy to lose track of time, and before you know it, your product has been there for a long time, and you're starting to incur these fees. And if you didn't know how long it had been there, going back to the other report where you can look at some of your fees and keep track of it, that may lead you to like, well, what's these extra fees for long-term storage? Well, let me go back and check this. So when you're looking at this one page, this is just the very, very top two. It's also under the reports and inventory age. This one here, the age report is going to show you the status, image, product, what the ASIN is, how many available. But this part right here, where it's going to show you the actual day range of how many products have been in storage for that length of time, that's something you really want to keep track of. Now, if you're over here to the 181 days, you'll get the notification saying, hey, your product's been here. It's longer than 181 days. What do you want to do about it? You might start incurring long-term storage fees or not, and so forth and so forth, okay? They'll even give you an estimated amount of what the long-term storage fees would be, and just how many units are sold, and if they were to sell through, and so on and so forth. Okay, when you get this report, this is actually going to be helpful if you think you've got some products there and you don't quite remember how long you've had it. One thing I'm going to clarify is when I try to pull up this actual report here, this one here is not under reports. This one actually is going to be under inventory, and you'll drop down and you can find these different reports that are here. Okay, this one here, I think it's under inventory. Excuse me, I think it's under, it says something inventory plan, I believe, and then these will actually pop up. So not all reports are actually going to be under reports. You're going to find information someplace else as well, okay? But this one here is the one that I was looking at for inventory age, okay? So you want to try and keep track of that as well. Then the other ones you can actually get manage excess inventory, restock if you're actually going to be restocking, then and what your actual performance is. And we'll talk a little about these other ones in a second. If you're looking at your manage FBA returns on here, something you want to follow, because if you're getting returns, it's a good idea to know what's been returned, why it's been returned from that customer, what the reason may be, and so forth and so forth. All right. So right here, you go to inventory, inventory planning, and then these are the tabs. We were just here at inventory age. Okay. Remember I talked about the fixed stranded inventory, so you can get to that from this as well, also from reports. So you're going to find some reports you can actually get to from different areas. So just play with it. It can be confusing. So maybe when you're going through it the first time, maybe write down the steps as to how you got to that actual report. But it'll become second nature to you in no time at all. So this here with the returns here, it's going to show you what the order ID is. So when you click on the order ID, it can actually take you to that particular order. You can see what it was if you may not remember what it was, or if the name's not here. But in this box here, I've covered that you can actually, it'll show you your ASIN, it'll show you the product, shows you an image if an image is there. So you can actually look at that. So you may or may not need an order ID. However, I found out that when I questioned a refund that I was supposed to get on an order that was returned, they kept asking me for the order ID, not the ASIN. So I think that order ID is actually really important. So you want to make a note of that if you're actually keeping track of some of these things. I know I keep track of my returns that come through. I do mostly arbitrage. And the reason why I keep track of them, especially during the fourth quarter, you're going to get returns coming back, and there's a reason why. And it can take Amazon up to 45 days to reconcile on their end what happened with that item, because now the customer's already gotten their refund, and that's going to reflect on some of your other reports that you're pulling up. So now your customer has gotten back their money, and now you're sitting there with no revenue because it's been taken back, a product that you can't sell because you don't know where it's at. And especially if it's a pricey product, you're like, well, geez, I really need to sell that product. So when you look at this report here, it'll tell you what it is, but it'll say customer return reason, unknown reason. Well, I've seen that from time to time. Perhaps this is based upon what the customer selects as the reason why they're returning it. I've seen the item too big, too small, not as described on the website. So there's or defective, broken. There's different reasons they can put on there. Yes, they can select, but they can also edit and add extra verbiage if they're wanting to. This here return date, authorized date, that is the date that the customer has actually said, hey, I want to return this. They submit for the return, and then that's when they submitted it. This is the date that they actually were refunded. So this one here, it was March 20th. They were refunded the same day, which is typical because they're actually putting the refund through, as long as for a reason that's acceptable to Amazon, to where they don't have to pay for the return fees. So you can see this date here. So the rest of us here is sort of blank. Units received date, disposition. All it says here is return started and view details. Sometimes you can click on view details because that's what it'll say. Item was received damaged, whatever, or too fit. The fit is too small. Whatever the reason is just going to give you a little bit more information. So that unit received date and the disposition is sort of going to stay like that until Amazon has actually reconciled the reason for these returns. So if it gets to a point after 45 days, and this is one reason why I keep track of it, I recommend that you at least look at this if you got returns going on, because you may, after 45 days, you may have to call Amazon and say, hey, I haven't received my refund yet. Do you know what's going on with that shipment or that return? What happened? I've seen more returns lately because the item was not delivered on time. That seems to be a little more common than it used to be prior to fourth quarter. So I think that's something that's actually become a little more common. And I've heard other people in the Facebook group also make comments about that too. So if that customer does actually return the product and Amazon receives it, then you'll get a date under where it says unit received date. Then it will actually show that. Then your disposition could be, is it sellable or not? If it's sellable, then it could be returned to inventory. Or if it's not sellable, it'll say product damaged, customer damaged, something like that, and it will just say needs to. Basically, then you need to remove the item from your inventory. Okay, so you want to keep track on these FBA returns and just make sure, because this could be your money sitting here and you didn't know it, and you don't want your money sitting there. And also, if you have it to where the item has to be removed because Amazon has said that it is damaged in some way, if you don't remove it, you'll get emails saying you got to remove it, or they will just dispose of it. What I found out that I always remove it if I can, because The item is not damaged. The item is perfectly fine. So, because I will pull all those products back and I have them shipped back to me, and I will check them out personally and see that the fact that Amazon, for whatever reason, they just put damaged. I don't know if it's easier for them to just list it as damaged or not. I don't understand the reason. Maybe they don't, there's no way for them to look inside the box perhaps to see if it's damaged, and that very well could be a reason, which is fine with me, because maybe that I don't want them opening up the box that it's in, because it just maybe causes more problems. So end result is that I usually get them back. You get a return fee for that, and I get them back, and then I can check it out myself and actually see what it is that I can actually do with the item. All right, so that's just checking your returns. This one here, I'm sure we all look at, our feedback manager. This is just one that I found that shows you get it broken up between 30, 90, 365 days and a lifetime. So you can actually see the number of ratings and feedback ratings they've actually received from customers, whether it's positive, neutral, negative, how many they received during that time. So in this particular example, it shows one review was received in the last 30 days, and it was positive 100%. On 90 days, there were 10 of them reviewed. 11 reviewed, 10 were positive, 1 was neutral. Okay. At a year, 97%, so 28 were received as positive, 3 were neutral, and lifetime, same and so forth. And when you look at your report, especially on that first page of Seller Central, you'll see where, sort of like on the left side down towards the middle, you see where you can look at these feedback manager. And you may only see, while I show lifetime here of 33, you may only see 28 is the number. Well, what happened to the other reviews? Well, the reviews are still there. It's just that Amazon now has changed it. They only want you to see just 1 year of reviews and not 10 years worth of reviews. Now, I've still seen some companies that still show a review of 100,000. Perhaps they're selling that many to where that is what's keeping them in during that year time frame, because maybe they're a bigger company, they sell many more. So that very well could be possible. But this here is just going to give you the information that you need, so you can maybe dive into it a little bit more, and you can see perhaps is there a reason why somebody gave 4 stars for fast shipping. Whereas that's when you ask yourself, well, why didn't I get 5 stars for fast shipping? That would seem to make a little more sense. Haven't read the book yet, haven't used it yet, but it's still got 5 stars. Hey, that's good. Granddaughter loves it, but got 3 stars. I'm sure this person felt like saying, well, if she loves it, why didn't I get 5 stars? And you still want to try and write them back. And if it's something really bad, you can always message the purchaser back, and you can say, was there a problem, something you need help with, and so on and so forth. Now you can see down here, this one here says, this customer wrote, I only received 1 brush. Can you please send the second one to me? So what you can do is, if you have something that's related to the product, you can actually have it deleted. And this one here, actually, Amazon will cross through it and actually write, this item was fulfilled by Amazon, and we take responsibility for this fulfillment experience. So there are times that you can, that you can have this done. It's automatic now. You don't have to go through Amazon like you had to before. So when you look at this here, could this person, let's see, granddaughter loves it, possibly could try and get that removed, but because it's related to the product and not necessarily the service. So something you can look at. But this here's just good information. You want to look at your feedback as often as you can, just to see what's actually being said. If there is a problem, you can get it right on top of it. Especially if there is a big problem for those that have a lot of private label products too. That if it's something you need to address right away for good customer service, then you can actually do that. All right, so we look at some of these things. We look at business expenses. Did a webinar probably about a month ago looking at all your expenses and having to break them down. And when you look at your business expenses, you got to determine what is included in that. Well, it could be your Amazon fees. It could be anywhere, software program fees. And I'll show you one of the programs that I use to keep track of a lot of information for me. A portion of your rent or mortgage, internet, telephone, mileage, liability insurance, coaching fees, office supplies. And these are probably just a few of fees that you may have, although they do touch on a lot of different areas, but you may still have some different ones that need to be included for you. I do see a lot on Facebook where other members are asking about what type of coaching fees do you have. So much we sort of know about the coaching fees, but when we look at some of the software program fees that we have, how much we're paying for that, is it worth the money to actually pay for that software? Is it going to help us in our business? Is it going to give us our the information we need to offset those fees? And you want to look at that as well. And the benefits you get from some of the software programs may not be a benefit right away, but if you use it and is able to help you to find the information that you're looking for, then it could actually perhaps increase your sales and definitely offset what the costs are. And you want to be careful not to have too many programs that you're using. Several of us will use maybe 3 or 4, but if you have 10, you might want to look and say, hey, do I really need all 10? Are they some 10 very distinct programs and I need them all? And if they are, great. Then you keep them and you use them. So we're just hoping that your profits you're going to make are help to offset a lot of these expenses here. So how do you keep track of expenses? Well, there's many ways to do it. There's no wrong way, right way. It all depends on how it is you're wanting to handle it. Everybody does it differently. Everybody has a preference. You can go through an accountant, and even an accountant has different way of keeping track of your expenses, your profits, and so forth. I will say one area that most people use the expenses are going to be QuickBooks. Seems to be the most common. There are other programs out there that accountants like to use. I happen to use Inventory Labs. I use it, if anybody's familiar with that. It is a paid program. Yes, it's where I can put all my inventory in. I can pull up a bunch of different reports from there. I can put my monthly expenses in there, especially if there's some of these software programs I was just mentioning. I can put those in there so it's automatically added every month, and I don't have to keep track of that. And that will be loaded, so I'm not missing anything. If I go to arbitrage, I can put my mileage in there. So it does help to collect a lot of your expenses, which is so important because expenses can get the best of you if you don't keep track of them. They just, you might be thinking, well, it's only $5 a month, or this one here is only $15 a month. And if you lose track of the different programs you have, before you know it, you're spending $100, $200, $300 a month just in fees that you didn't realize were actually adding up, because you sort of forget that you just bought a program last month that you said you were going to use for 2 months, and now it's 4 months later and you still have it, but gee, I don't use it quite as much. So looking at these expenses and have them automatically loaded into some sort of category, some sort of program, QuickBooks, Inventory Labs, and there's plenty of them out there. These are the ones I'm just most familiar with and seem to be the most commonly used. It'll help you to just jog a little memory about what it is that you've actually put on your expenses too. Some will use the Excel spreadsheets. I use Excel spreadsheets too for different reasons. If you're not comfortable with Excel, it's a great program. It's used for many, many, many different reasons. If you're not familiar with that, you can always Google Excel videos on how to use it from basic all the way up to expert. I use it quite a bit. I'm not an expert. I'm above basic, but I mean, I can put programs and spreadsheets together, but there's so much more to do with it that I don't even know, but I get out of it what it is that I need and that I use it for. And it definitely helps me a lot. And doing all of this here will actually help you to develop the information and put it together in a form that you can actually try to develop your profit and loss statements or your income statements. That could also then help to generate your balance sheets on some of these programs, or at least give the information to your accountant. So it's all together in one sheet and they're not having to break everything down, which in the end could cost you a little bit more because now your accountant is having to spend more time trying to break down some of this information. So whichever way you want to be able to put this information in, this will really help a lot, because your revenue is going to be a little bit easier to track unless you have revenue from 10 different places, but then you might have just your revenue streams coming in and it's going to be the same type of revenue. It might just be a monthly amount that you're adding as far as revenue goes. Expenses can come at you all different directions and you might forget what they are. So that's why they're one of the more important ones to actually keep track of. Okay. Now, I mentioned Inventory Labs. This is the one that I use. I do a lot of arbitrage here. So this one here, you can set it up for whatever category you want, whatever date range you want, whatever it may be. So this one here shows the category profitability. So on the left-hand side are the categories. So those are just some categories selected, and it shows the number of units sold. And this one happens to be in the last month, so not quite a full month. So you look at this here, I said, well, gosh, okay, this is telling me, actually, this little report here is giving me a lot of information that would be good to know. It's telling me like, okay, well, gee, I sold pet products, groceries, and kitchens are like my main niches here. So maybe I need to look at that. Could be just by chance. It could be just for that month because you found a great deal, or it could be the fact that your PL product is in pet products because that's what you're doing, or it's in grocery or kitchen, whatever it is you might be making for the kitchen. And actually we'll show that to you, and it will show you the number of units that are sold. So this inventory lab helps to break down some information for you. If the information on the other side is if there's anything refunded to you because the patient was got a refund for a return, it'll break down what the revenue is. It'll show you what your percent of revenue is. So this here breaks down like an inventory lab. When you're putting items in, it'll ask you how much the actual cost of the item was. So it'll break it down to show you your percent of revenue, what your profit is, and what your ROI is, and how much you have on hand. And that way you can look at some of these products, and these are actually pulled over directly from Amazon. So the information is up to date and accurate. So when you look at this, it's not guessing like when you're out arbitraging on Seller Central that well, is this going to be right? Is it not? Because when numbers change, this here is our actual numbers that is actually pulled over from Amazon, from Seller Central. So you can actually see the numbers and what it is, and you can actually help to break this down even further if you wanted to. So Inventory Lab is one that I use. I actually like it a lot. It's actually made life a little bit easier. There's plenty of methods that you can use. This just happens to be one that's recommended to me, and then I've been using it, and I really like it a lot. And it is a common program that a lot of people do use just for the reasons that I was mentioning. Another way to help keep track of your expenses, your revenue, is just to do this on an Excel spreadsheet. Now you can make this as small or as big as you want. I think it was Michael P. that actually put on the Facebook group this morning. His sheet that he did is very detailed, which is really good. Shows the reasons for the revenue, where it might be coming from. This one here just shows your sales, and there's reimbursement. And include reimbursement because it's going to be a revenue to you. So, because you're getting that money back. And that goes back to keeping track of your refunds, or, your customer returns. So if you're going to get reimbursed for that, it's going to go in here. If there are items that you have that are lost or damaged at the warehouse, and maybe some of us have seen that, that would also go under FBA reimbursement. Then you look down at your expenses, look at FBA fees, shipping charges, there's your customer returns. That becomes an expense. Any kind of removal order that you may do, storage fees, advertising, whatever it may be. So I look at this, and these are just made up numbers, just typed in there. And if you say, well, if I got revenue of $16,000, all my expenses are $5,000 or basically $6,000, I'm like, I can take that. I can handle that kind of revenue expense tracking for me. But and these expenses here, what I don't see are my mortgage, my telephone, and internet service, and all. So if you're going to do this to the full extent, you somehow want to put in there what your other expenses are, whether it be your COGS, your cost of goods sold, also your overhead costs, which could just be combined into one, or you can list them out in a more of a detailed report, and then take that detailed report and put it in here more as a broad report as COGS or overhead. But at a quick glance, let's say if all those extra expenses are in there, seems like it's a pretty good revenue going on there. $10,000 roughly. I can take that. This is something that I use on myself, especially when I'm looking at items that I do a lot of arbitrage on. You could use it for any PL products too if you're wanting to, especially if you're changing pricing. So this is just an example of some numbers that I just put in here. But this here is just an Excel spreadsheet that I have date listed, item description, where I bought it from, whichever store, whichever factory, or however it is you're going to do that. Number of items that were purchased, how many were actually sold, what was the purchase price, what are your FBA fees, what did you sell it for, what are your costs to ship it to Amazon. Usually, depending on the item, it could be estimate maybe a quarter, maybe 50 cents, maybe $1, depending upon the actual product. the size, the weight, and so forth. So this particular one, I just put $1. It's probably more than what it costs, but so for some, you could put 50 cents. So it just all depends on what you want to put in there. If there's any taxes that you may have paid on those items, if they're wholesale, you're not going to have any taxes that you've paid. If you have a tax exempt status that you have from your state, then this will all be zeros, which will actually help to save you a good amount of money as well. Then you can look at your total expenses, where I just added up your expense lines here, got my total expenses, break it down to get my potential gain, whatever it could be, what my percent ROI is, what my profit and loss is for that. This one here, because it's only one item, it's the same as your potential gain, okay? This one here, for whatever reason, was a loss. So loss and then times 3, so lost 2286 for whatever reason. Then I bring it over here, and this is the total for everything. This is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of line if you do a lot of shopping, if you keep it for a month at a time or a year at a time. So it could be very, very lengthy if that's what you need. And this here will give you a total P&L, what you invested in, ROI, and so on and so forth. So these numbers don't correlate to just this here, so they might look a little funky, but the idea is looking at this here of just a potential table you could put together that will help you at least be able to see what some of your numbers are. Okay, so hopefully that can actually help you look at some of these things as well. Okay, another way of looking at it, whether you're arbitrage or your private label, the rule of thirds, you sort of want whatever you're paying for your product, it's what you're going to make your revenue should be 3 times that. So a third of it's going to be whatever it costs for you to land, or the product cost to make it landed. A third of it going to the fees, and also a third hopefully goes to you. Whether that's private label or arbitrage. Okay, just a general rule. So look at liability insurance. Okay, so you've done all this here. You've looked at all your reports, and you're like, okay, we're doing good. We're making all this money. And then all of a sudden you get some customer saying, I'm going to sue you because I've hurt myself on your product. Well, Amazon does require you to have liability insurance, so it's actually good to have liability insurance. You want to make sure you pick the right one. If you work with a company that's used to handling e-commerce, they'll make your life really easy and be able to give you the guide as to what it is that you need. This one particular one that I bought it from, it will ask you, yes, your e-commerce, are you private label, arbitrage, what are you, or both? If you're both, then you'll get different types. But private label, you're usually going to get a general and a product liability insurance. General is going to be, well, that'll just cover anything. And product liability, because you manufacture, you design that product, so if they're injured for that product, they can actually give you that extra protection specific to that product, whatever it may be, especially if you're dealing with the next ones, the vitamin supplements, any kind of beauty products, e-cigarettes, kids, because those are going to have the higher risk of actually someone trying to claim a lawsuit against you based upon those particular areas, because it's especially kids. So you want to make sure that you have the insurance. The same goes for arbitrage. It's usually just a general liability because you did not make those products. They're actually covered under which your manufacturer did that and whoever the brand name is. So it is more of just general liability. When you look at your coverage typically for just a general first step is going to be 1 million, 2 million. So your 1 million for liability can go up to 2 million. I think it's 1 million per occurrence and 2 million overall. If you're doing anything with those products, with vitamin supplements, beauty products, kids, I always say if it's something that you're going to put in your body, on your body, or deals with kids, double your coverage amounts and do that 2 and 4 million. That is going to give you a better coverage than what you need, because if it's something that's going to ruin maybe you have a new face cream and you put it on your face and all of a sudden it burns you, and you will have somebody who wants to come after you pretty quick, because now they feel that they've really been injured because it's something they have to look at all the time. So just a little thing, if you're looking for other information, the Seller Central University, if you don't know about it, it's great information. Go in there. There's tons of information, so many different products, and there's short little courses you can actually run through. There's little videos. Some are very, very short. So there's different topics here. This one happens to deal with your fulfillment, your FBA programs, your preparing for the holidays, regulatory compliance. You want to make sure that that's actually an important one to learn, seller performance. And this will help you get more information. They have a whole area down here about getting the most out of your business reports too. So watch this, because their take on it could be a little bit different than some of the things I explained today. So it just gives you an extra look from their vantage point as far as what they're wanting to teach their own, what they're wanting to teach their sellers and so forth. Okay, so let me go back to my screen here, since I think I've gone through enough PowerPoints, so maybe we can look at some questions. Was it going back? Yeah, there we go. All right. So anyway, so that's just information. I hope it was helpful. I just touched on many things. I didn't go in a lot of depth. Hopefully I was able to explain enough to get you interested and at least get you on the right track of trying to find some different reports and information that you're looking at. So let me see. I know we got a couple of questions here. Let's see. Randolph actually asked, I recently created a removal order and had 57 units of a product, and they only shipped to me 20 units. Did they keep the remaining 37 units in case one of my competitors runs out of stock? Well, you might want to check with them, because if you requested a removal order of 57, you should get 57. Now, what you can do is you can say, okay, 57, wait a little bit, maybe wait a few days, maybe a week or 2 weeks, because those 57 may have been separated between, let's say, 10 different warehouses. So they're actually having to go and pull from 10 different places. So it might be in California if you live in, you said you live in Indiana. So you know, being more towards the middle country, if it's in California somewhere, then it might take a little bit longer for you to get it. So you want to give that little bit of time to be able to get them. But if you're after a couple of weeks, you don't have everything, I would follow up with Amazon and make sure. I have found that, and I've heard stories that Amazon doesn't always return everything to their customers, that sometimes they will dispose of them or keep them. So you just want to double check. I don't know how true that is. It's just I've had people tell me that. So I've had to keep track on some items that I've had to have removal order done, and follow up with them as well, because you definitely want to 37. You paid for those 37, and that's a lot. That's not just one or two. Maybe one or two, maybe you're not going to worry about so much, but 37, that's quite a bit. So you definitely want to check that out. He also asked, I get product reports and email every day. I thought I'd turn this feature off. I've done the same thing. And when I first started doing reports, I said there's reports to be delivered to my email every day. And I was like, oh, I don't need this report. What was I thinking? And so I had to go into reports and find out where it was that this report was generated coming to me. You might have to dig around and click around somewhere and you'll find it, and then you can actually stop it. And that way it'll give you a chance to maybe change it up to what kind of report you needed for a date range that might suit you better. Because once you find out that these reports, this is what I want every month, you may want them sent to you every month just because it's easy to get, and you can actually then keep it and do whatever you want to do with it. I thought about doing that. It's actually sometimes the easy way out, but I like going there and getting it myself. And the reason why is because it keeps me in the report section. It keeps me on the tabs. So I'm used to going in there and I don't forget where items are and they're located, because there's nothing more frustrating than you're thinking, oh my gosh, where was that report that I wanted? I know I can find it here. And it's easy to forget, and there's new information and new reports added all the time. New tabs are added all the time. We went over a couple of them as well. So that's my preference. I like to go in there and pull the reports myself. When they go to download, they really don't take very long. They're actually very quick. You might wait just a couple minutes, but I like to get them myself, and it just keeps me fresh of where everything is, because it can get confusing after a little bit. Is a good way to say it. So yes, you went ahead and turn them off. I don't remember exactly, because it depends upon the actual port. So go into where your report is and actually find in there is a way that you can turn it off. You can even go into Seller Central University, and you can probably find a video on that as to how to return those reports off as well, if that may help you. I just don't remember off the top of my head. I would have to go in there and play with it, because I stopped getting automatic reports, and that's why I don't remember. Sorry about that. So let's see. It also says, I have QuickBooks Online. Is there software that works with QuickBooks that auto loads expenses? You know, I'm not the QuickBooks expert. I have my bookkeeping. I got a bookkeeper and accountant that's going to help keep track of that for me. So I know they can automatically load like bank statements that come into your QuickBooks accounts every month. So that would be one example how it's done. Have somebody teach you and show you if you don't, or Google it, and there's videos to do it. Like I said, I'm not the expert. I can go in there and do simple things, but to actually set up for downloading and to set up for all the different accounts you have when those expenses come in. But when you can do that and find that out, then it'll definitely save you a lot of time. Supposedly, they can also automatically categorize themselves if it's a typical expense every single month. It will do that for you. So then Carlos is here. Will Inventory Lab pull revenue reports for each Nexus state? Interestingly enough, there is a report that you can actually pull up that will show you the taxes paid for those particular states. So it's not that there's Nexus there, which of course they would be, because you're you would think so, because that's where the seller is at and they're going there. But it may not be the state where the actual Nexus is, or where the items might be stored. So it's sort of two different things, right? So I've not seen it to where that pulls up Nexus, because that, although it would be a good addition, and maybe I just haven't found it yet. But there's other reports, and I think a lot of people join TaxJar so they can get that information that will help them with those Nexus states. So not sure. We have to look it up and see. And if I find it, I can always go back in the Facebook group and see, and let everybody know whether there is or not. But that's actually a really good question, because that would save you a lot of time as trying to determine which states you might have to worry about whether you have to file an income tax or not. So I'm saying it's aggressive for sure. I'm not sure what you mean, but okay. Can you suggest an online accountant? Wow. I don't think I've ever used an online accountant. I have an accountant in my neighborhood, actually in my city, actually my neighborhood, my city. There are online accountants that you can actually get. There is an area on, used to be, I think, on Just One Dime. It was one of the sites they had. These are the companies that were at one of the previous summits. But I think if you go to, I'm trying to remember, just search around, start with TaxJar. And I believe that there are some other companies you can say, hey, as used by, and go to some of your other programs maybe you're using that's not with your taxes, maybe you're using for your helping you to discover better arbitrage or whatever it may be, or helping you discover more about, trying to find and research products. I know a lot of people use the Jungle Scouts and Helium 10s and all, and they may have an advertisement that says, hey, we've used these companies and so on and so forth. So look around like that. But it's better if you can get an accountant that knows e-commerce. It is really important to do that. The accountant that I have, actually, I had her open up my accounts and all, and she didn't know e-commerce at all, but then she hired a bookkeeper. So when I met with that bookkeeper, was very well versed in e-commerce. So that bookkeeper, because she was in the music industry, so she dealt with that a lot across state lines for all the items that a lot of the artists, sell. So she understood it completely and how it works in every state, and about as far as the tax consequences, how does we file taxes, and so on and so forth. So that information is very valuable to us. So she would then teach the accountant, and of course the accountant has the experience, so it's not like it's a big learning curve. But you definitely want to make sure that they have some knowledge in e-commerce and how it may affect you. And there are some people who just use the TaxJar companies out there, because it will help to take that part of it and make it easier, and then have an accountant that will just help to put the rest of their books in order and then file the taxes for them if they're that involved, and so forth. And some people want to do it all themselves, and that's fine. I just choose to use an accountant because I just find it's much easier, and I have then more time that's going to be free because of other things I'm going to try and work on to build the business as well. So I think it's a good idea, but it is your personal choice. It may be too expensive at first, or you may have to just only choose certain selections of the services that the accountant may offer you that they can actually do for you. So you just want to look at that and actually just go in and meet them face to face. If it's someplace local, if it is someplace online, give them a call. I know one that I called was Cherry Bakehart. They also do a lot of e-commerce. They're a very big accounting firm across the country, but they're very big, and I was afraid that their fees were going to be a little too high, so I didn't use them, but I did speak with them. And they were very nice. And I did speak with one person, I don't remember her name. She's out of one of the offices, because they have offices across the country, who is very well versed in e-commerce, and she could just tell you probably anything and everything. But of course, if you're wanting their business, or want to hire them, that's just one example of somebody I called. But there's many more out there. So you just gotta do some research. So probably if you just Googled e-commerce accountants, or accountants who deal with e-commerce, that just might help you a lot. So, but hopefully you find someone. Well, I think that's time. I mean, you have some really good questions. There's a lot still to learn, a lot to play with. Really just get in there and just and do with what you're looking for. Try and find what you're looking for. Don't give up. It can be frustrating. It's sort of like doing your research through Maisel and looking for your PL product. So, you know, you do research for that, so you can do it with this as well. So hopefully you find the information reports. Don't forget the insurance. It's really important to keep track of all your expenses and your revenues, so you know what's included and all that, and where your money is coming in and going. And I hope I answered questions. I hope I helped. If you have any other questions, maybe we can touch on here, just ask in the Facebook group. I posted a link there, so you can always come back and rewatch it for those who were not able to come in here today. Otherwise, really appreciate it. And I hope everybody has a great rest of their day. Talk to you later. Bye.